Good evening. Tonight, I decided to try something a little different, and I'm going to be running through Call of Cthulhu Alone Against the Flames. This is an adventure from the starter kit that is designed as a solo adventure, so it can be played by just one person without a keeper, and it helps the player learn the game. From what I've seen, it actually walks you through creation of your character while you're playing. So we are going to go ahead and open this up. The particular one I'm using here, this is available on Roll20 as part of the Call of Cthulhu starter set. So we will start. You can see that it has all of the basic information on rollable tables, macros, shortcuts that can be used. I've already turned on the macros for the dice roller and percentile dice roller. We will see if I use those or if I'm just work off of the character sheet once we create one. And I'm going to start by creating a character sheet. And I'm going to name my character Herbert Winston. Sounds like a good name for a 1920s character. And I'm going to set it to show up in my journal and with myself as the editor and controller. I don't have to do that because I'm also the GM of the game, but it's a good habit to get into. So I'm not going to worry about the bio. And here's the Call of Cthulhu character sheet, which has all of my information on it with the default settings. And it's currently in edit mode. And you see it automatically picked up the name I gave him. So that's good. And I'm just going to put my sheet here. Because as I said, this game is designed to walk you through all aspects of playing, which includes creating the character. So we will start out with handout number 1, which is the start of the game. Let's see. The sun is high in the sky, a merciless ball of heat. You feel scorched by the time you reach the bus. By the time you reach the bus halt in front of Osborne's drugstore, it's a relief to put down your heavy cases and take off your hat for a moment. You fan your face. It has been a long summer here in your hometown, and yet a curiously empty one. You look across the street at the grubby butcher's shop, the grocer's with its faded awning, and the shabby tobacconist. Mistrustful faces glare at you as they pass, eyeing your clothes and luggage. It was your parents' choice to live here, not yours. You were happy down south as a child, among Providence's white-walled houses and leafy churchyards. Perhaps this new job in Arkham will supply the change you need. Yet everybody you know in the world lives here. You know nobody in Arkham. Not one soul. You ask yourself one last time if you're doing the right thing. The answer is here. None of your supposed friends have come to see you off. You are alone. Whatever challenges lie in Arkham, it will be a new life, and a brave one. A small gray motor coach approaches and rattles to a stop. You put your hat back on and pick up your cases. Go to page 263 with a convenient link. So we can close number 1. Two young men with sullen expressions alight from the coach. One looks up and down before heading away. The driver also steps down, glancing at you before crossing the road to visit the tobacconist. When he returns, he is rolling a cigarette between his yellowed fingers. He gives it a final twist and examines you as he reaches for his matchbox. He's a thin man in his 50s, dressed in a stained shirt with the bus company emblem. Yet his eyes are sharp in their dark sockets. Where to? You show him your ticket to Ossipee. From there you will connect to Rochester and Portsmouth, before the coastal line to Newburyport, and finally Arkham. You should be able to afford a rail ticket for at least some of the way. Otherwise, this will be the first of many long bus trips. The driver scratches the match and lights his cigarette. The end flares as he takes a draw. Then he exhales and gestures to the back of the coach. Luggage rack's up there. Now, let's see. Look at the investigator sheet. At the top, you have spaces for 8 characteristics. Strength, constitution, power, dexterity, appearance, size, intelligence, and education. Allocate the following values among them, writing them in the large square beside each. So let's see. I'm thinking that my character is probably fairly dexterous. So I will start by putting an 80 in dexterity. And then for appearance, hold on. For his strength, I'm going to give him a 50 strength. Not particularly strong, but he's got a good constitution. So I'll put the 70 there. For his size, I'm not sure. So I'll just give him a 50. And appearance, say also a 50. Or no, actually his appearance is going to be a 40. Because I get the feeling that he looks a little odd. I mean, given that people in his hometown were staring at him funny, he's a little strange looking. Education, he's definitely got a solid education. And for his intelligence is average, so we'll go with the 50. And that will leave 60 for power. And I'm not going to pull up all the information in the book right now, but it does say that we can read page 7 in book 2 of the starter set for more information. So now that I've completed filling out the basic stats and characteristics, we'll go ahead and open page 8. Bus ticket. The driver smokes and watches as you drag your cases to the back of the motor coach. The rack is set inconveniently high on the vehicle. You get a grip on the heavier case. If your size is 40, go to 23. If your size is higher, then go to 38. Well, for size, I gave him 50, so we will go to 38. The driver continues to enjoy his cigarette, watching with keen interest as you struggle with the cases. You grit your teeth and heave the second one into place. Perhaps the residents of Arkham will have better manners. Go to number 233. The driver flicks his cigarette into the gutter and steps into the motor coach. Its engine coughs into life. You board, grateful that you will be the only passenger for the initial part of your trip at least. With mixed emotions, you watch from the window as the tired avenues of your old home slip behind you, receding into the distance. For a few minutes, you can still see the church spire over the brow of a low hill. Then the road dips, and it too is gone. Arkham is your new home. You will travel there and make a new start. And now we have more instructions for the character sheet. We'll see 2 smaller boxes to the right of each characteristic value. Have each value rounding down and write the result in the upper right box. Okay. Now in this particular case, we don't have those values to fill in. But that is because for the character sheet in Roll20, it's going to automatically calculate those when we choose which option is needed. Because the halved value and the 1/5 value are the hard and extreme options. So one of the nice features in playing in Roll20 is that the math is handled for you. So after looking at this, in the strip below, you will see tracks that record sanity and magic points. Beginning sanity is equal to your original power. So power is 60, which means my sanity is 60. So we'll put 60 in these two. And beginning magic points are the same as the value you've just assigned for power, divided by 5. Mark these on the tracks. So there's the sanity, and 60 divided by 5 is 12. So that fills in our sanity and magic points, and we can move on to page 134. The coach putters through the countryside. At first, the interior is stifling and your stomach lurches with every bend in the road. However, the driver opens his window, and by switching seats, you find a spot where the breeze hits your face. You soon relax into the journey, observing the quaint little hamlets that the coach serves. A heavy-set woman boards at one settlement and gives you a polite nod. She gets off at the next one. The road rises a little, passing cornfields and orchards. The leaves are turning, and the trees are alive with glorious reds and golds. You have just begun to doze when the driver takes a tight bend at speed. Now, our instructions for this is add size and con together. Then divide the total by 10, rounding down. This is the starting value for your hit points. Mark it on your investigator sheet. Your current total may drop, but it is unlikely to exceed the starting value. So size is 50, con is 70. So that means it's a total of 120, so I will have 12 hit points, which has already been calculated and put in here. You also have a luck score. Roll 3 6-sided dice. We call this 3d6. Multiply your 3d6 roll result by 5 to get your beginning luck score and mark it on your investigator sheet. So I'm going to switch over to here, and I'm going to do /roll 3d6 divided by 5. And that gives me 2.6. That is not a lot of luck. But it's multiplied by 5. So that means I have a total of 10 luck. here it doesn't specify whether I'm supposed to round up or round down. But it's usually, in most RPGs, we round down, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Okay. Now you must make a roll against your dex. Roll 1d100. This means rolling 2 10-sided dice and using one value for the tens and one value for the units. Well, I'm going to switch edit mode off, and that'll let me just click on dexterity, and it pops up that my dexterity with my character's name, it was a regular roll. It didn't say to do otherwise. And I rolled a 78 versus my dexterity of 80. So I rolled under my dexterity, which is a success, which is automatically determined here. Now we'll see what this has to say. If you rolled equal to your dex or less, you passed the roll. Well, success. If you rolled greater than your dex, you failed. We figured that out. You may be tempted to skip such rolls and simply pretend you always pass. But Call of Cthulhu is a game of mystery and horror. The terrible disasters that can befall your character are part of the fun. You will not necessarily have more fun if you pass every roll than you would have if you failed. This is very true. Call of Cthulhu is all about not really knowing what's going to happen, to have that bit of surprise. In fact, for those that aren't familiar with Call of Cthulhu or the Cthulhu mythos, it is very much a horror genre, full of strange and unusual occurrences and creatures, and more than a little magic. And most of the time, characters do not come out of a game with all of their sanity or alive. It's usually best not to get attached to your characters. But there are different variants in play, and some keepers also play differently than others. So it's not always the case that you should expect to die in every session or go completely and utterly insane. But it's always good to go into it remembering that's part of the fun. Now, we passed our dex roll, so we go to 261. A desperate yell awakens you. You feel yourself slide from the seat as the driver spins the wheel and the motor coach plunges off the road. You grab hold of the seat in front, just in time to prevent a painful fall. The coach stops with a thump. Now you see what has happened. A Fordson tractor has stopped in the road, and your driver has had to swerve to avoid the steel obstacle. He leaps from his seat into the road, unleashing a string of curses at the farmer. And we'll wait for the train. There we go. You take a moment to catch your breath. Perhaps you should offer assistance. But the driver has already returned. He backs the coach up a little and threads it around the tractor, glaring at the farmer. Well, they certainly don't seem to be getting along. Oh my. Who is this? That must be the driver. You resume your journey. The driver takes the curves with more caution than before. He glances over his shoulder at you a couple of times. Sorry about before, he says. That feller was dumber than a hog. I'm Silas. What's your name? The accident was at least as much Silas's fault as the farmer's, but it doesn't seem shrewd to antagonize the man while he's driving through the middle of nowhere. Now, I skipped ahead when I created my character sheet because here they're saying we should go ahead and name our character. I've already gone with Herbert Winston. It is recorded on the character sheet. We can also add your age. For the purposes of this adventure, your character should probably be aged between 23 and 36. So I'm going to say I am 26. Interesting that gender has a number in it. But I will put in M. Residence. We'll put Arkham, because that's our new home. We're very clear about that. This is a new start. And I'm going to leave the birthplace blank, because I want to forget that town. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't want to forget the town. I want to forget the town that I grew up in. But my birthplace was down south. So, why don't we make it Norfolk? Norfolk, Virginia. Just because that comes to mind quickly. The coach turns onto a narrower road, which weaves uphill through woodland. Silas becomes chatty. Going to Arkham, eh? Can't say I ever heard of the place. Went to Boston once. Didn't like it. Too much hustle and bustle. You got family there? Special someone waiting for you? The afternoon is wearing on. You see no harm in confiding in Silas about your new life. A job, eh? What's your line? Ooh, now we get to choose our profession. Antiquarian, a doctor of medicine, a journalist, a private investigator, or a professor. Um, 26 in the 1920s. I think we'll go with journalist. That seems like a good profession for a young guy to be heading out to make his way as. So we will go to 239. You mentioned the reporter's job, which you secured at the Arkham Gazette on the strength of a few freelance pieces in your local newspaper. It will be a relief to get away from vapid society columns and whimsical stories. You understand the Gazette covers everything from the breakthroughs of researchers at Miskatonic University to the most sordid exploits of local ne'er-do-wells. It should be something to get your teeth into at any rate. A writer? For a newspaper? Silas seems confused, as if he thought the stories somehow wrote themselves. And my credit rating is 20%. Well, that doesn't sound so good. Though, might be better than my actual one. So, we will take it. So 20%. We add a 20 down here in credit rating. And my occupation skills are art, craft, photography. So we can scan down here. There should be an art craft. I was looking right at it and didn't see it. Photography. History, library use, own language, psychology, and one of either charm, fast talk, intimidate, or persuade. And I may also pick any two other skills except Cthulhu Mythos as personal specialties. Allocate the following values among these occupation skills, writing them in the large square beside each. Aha, this looks a lot like our characteristics. So, photography. I'm going to say I'm a pretty good photographer. So I'm going to give him a 60 on photography. History. We'll do that as a 50. I follow enough, but more of a current events man. Library use. This is something I know. You got to do your research. So I'm going to make that a 60. That's my two 60s. Okay. Own language. Now there should be a spot for language here. Oddly enough, there doesn't appear to be a language. Own. It's right here. And it's a 50. Which is what I wanted to do. And next we have psychology, which, say, not that strong at psychology. So that one is up here. I'm going to make that a 40. And then one of either charm, fast talk, intimidate, or persuade. Given I've gone with journalist, I'm thinking I'm going to bump my persuade up to 70. Because how else are you going to get a good story if you can't talk people into telling you stuff? So that uses my 70, my two 60s, one of my 50s, right? So it's 60, 50, 60, 50. So that's two 60s, two 50s, a 40, a 70. So that leaves me a 40 and a 50 for my other two skills. Now let's see. Other skills that I should take. Looking at these really quick, I'm thinking I'm going to take fast talk for 40. Not so good at it, but not too bad. And spot hidden as a 50. Because you got to be able to pick out details as a journalist. And as I've already overwritten a couple, it's a good thing that it says ignore any starting value already mentioned on the investigator sheet. Because you probably noticed that when I did persuade, it was a 20, and I changed it to a 70. So now that I've got my skills in place, we'll move on to 128. Excuse me. You realize Silas hasn't made a stop since the incident with the tractor. The motor coach winds its way uphill. However, your thoughts are interrupted as the road crests a ridge and you are treated to a magnificent view of the vista below. A creek snakes through the valley, breaking the rich autumn palette of the tree line. In the distance, the white mountains rise into hazy cloud. There is no settlement, not even a cabin, as far as the eye can see. Birds drift through the treetops, and you can just make out what might be two white-tailed deer lingering by the water. Perhaps you're making a mistake by moving to the city. Could you survive on your own in this lush wilderness? You have a base ability in most skills, listed in brackets after the skill name on the investigator sheet. For instance, you have 20% in climb, and a base dodge equal to half your dex. So I've got a dodge of 40, because I just decided to make this journalist very dexterous. Climb is a 20. Now, choose 4 skills, which are not your occupation skills, nor Cthulhu Mythos. These are your personal interest skills. Boost each of these by 20 points. Oh. Let's see. Personal interest. Say climb. Probably likes to climb. And mechanical repair. Oops. That one goes up to 30. And I've got 2 more. Locksmith. Kind of goes with tinkering around in mechanical repair. And an interest in the natural world. All part of being a journalist. You want to learn about everything around you. At this point, you may like to calculate half and 1/5 values for each skill, in just the same way you did for your characteristics. Remember to round down. If you are bored of calculations, you can leave the math until it becomes necessary. Or if you're using the interactive PDF version of the investigator sheet, you'll see it does all the math for you. Well, again, the Roll20 Call of Cthulhu sheet does not show these values, but it does automatically calculate them. So we don't have to worry about doing all that math. Now go to 144. The motor coach rattles on through the hills, and Silas lapses into silence. The sky darkens behind you, pinks tinting the clouds as the sun descends. Finally, a welcome sight comes into view. A settlement on the crest of a hill. This doesn't look like the pictures you've seen of Ossipee. But perhaps you can persuade Silas to stop while you stretch your legs. Minutes later, a harsh stuttering from the engine interrupts your reverie. Silas frowns and rattles the gear stick. The motor coach falters in its ascent. Silas utters a curse you don't recognize and grinds his teeth. Struggling at the wheel, you seem to inch up the hill until you reach the first buildings, low dwellings constructed from a rough red stone. Silas wrestles the coach into a small bay off the road. He scrambles from his seat and makes for the engine compartment. You must now choose to make a roll against Drive Auto or Psychology. If you choose Drive Auto, you need to roll equal to or less than the skill value. If you choose Psychology, you need a hard success. This is a roll equal to or less than half the skill value, the number in the upper right box. You may attempt only 1 skill roll. Well, let's see. Drive Auto is a 20. Psychology is a 40. But I still have to roll a 20, so I've got equal odds. I'm thinking I'm going to try Drive Auto. So I'll come down here, click on, and turned off edit mode, and I can click on Drive Auto. I failed. If I failed my roll, go to 194. This doesn't sound good. Silas opens the engine compartment and sticks his head inside. The hot metal pops and sizzles. He pokes at various components, then withdraws and wipes his brow, smearing it with dark grease. I ain't sure what's wrong. Might be the oil pressure. Might be something knocked off kilter when we took that spill. Can't do much until the engine cools, neither. And with the light failing, I reckon we'll be here through the night. He wipes his hands on a rag. The shadows from your surroundings are already long and the air is chilly. You feel stiff from the journey and a night in the rickety coach sounds unappealing. Silas sees your dismay. This here's Emberhead. Miles from any place. I only come through twice a week, but the folks here are good people. May Ledbetter keeps a spare room. She'll look after you. Up that alley, turn right, first house on the left. Meet me back here at 8 in the morning, and we'll see how we stand. So, we can go find May Ledbetter's house. We can ask Silas where he will spend the night. Or we can challenge Silas about the breakdown. Well, I don't really see a reason to challenge him. He's already got enough going on. After the accident, probably a real good chance that that's what did it. So, and I don't know that at all. And looking at it, I'm not so sure that it's really any of my business where Silas is going to spend the night. So, I'm thinking we'll probably just grab our cases and head for May Ledbetter's. Get a room. 267. You drag your cases between the sullen buildings. You feel surprisingly weary considering you have spent all day sitting down. Silas's directions lead you to a modest dwelling with a slate roof. A nameplate reads Ledbetter, and underneath a sign in neat copper plate reads Lodging Room. The lane around you is gloomy, but a lamp flickers in the window. A breeze chills your face. You're not about to begin your new life by sleeping in the street. You rap on the weather-beaten door. After a moment, you hear footsteps inside the house. A bolt is drawn back and the wooden door swings open. A figure with loose curls and a rough-looking house dress peers at you. Her gaze takes in your traveling suit and your cases. Her voice has a slight Irish lilt. Hello. Should I take it as you're looking for a room for the night? You inquire as to her rates, suppressing a grimace. As far as you've seen, the village does not offer you many alternatives. Oh, you'll find them very reasonable, she says. You look tired. I'm May. Come inside and we'll talk over a cup of tea. The Ledbetter house feels cramped, with a low ceiling and simple fittings, but it is well kept and a cheerful fire crackles in the grate. The aroma of the tea is soothing and the cup warms your fingers. Have you come to Emberhead for the festival? Asks May. So, do we explain what happened with the coach? Or ask about the festival? I think I want to know about this festival. It happens to be something in town if we're stuck here for a couple of days while he's fixing the coach. Might be interesting. Worst case scenario, can always write a little story about it. Maybe get it in the paper, get a jump on that job. So we'll go to 21. Well now, I suppose the festival is about the only reason folks come to Emberhead. I thought you had maybe come to study it or take photographs. Well, it's not tomorrow night, but the night after. I suppose it looks very strange to a passerby. May tops up your tea. The spout clinks against your cup. We've got the beacon, you see. One night every year there's a torchlit procession, and we light the beacon on the cliffs. You've never seen the like of it. They say it keeps the spirit of the village alive for another year. It's a celebration. A celebration. She trails off for a moment and blinks. But you didn't come here to listen to me blather. You must be hungry. I can rustle you up a bit of stew. How would that be? You ask again about her rates, and May names a price so low you accept it without hesitation. The room is small but comfortable, and the stew dark and hearty. After dinner, you have a couple of hours before your usual bedtime. Do we talk to May? Walk around and get your bearings? Or turn in early for the night? I think I'd like to talk to May. I want to hear more about this festival. May talks about life in Emberhead. In her letters, my sister always asks if I'm not bored living in such a small place. She lives in New York. Then she writes about how frightened she is to walk home at night. I ask you. You mention your hopes for a new life in Arkham. May doesn't seem to hear you. It's a small place here, yes, but that means we have a real community. Everybody's face is known. Everybody works together. Nobody is excluded. Except those who choose to exclude themselves, of course. You couldn't live anywhere else now. Make a charm roll. If you succeed, go to 39. If you fail, go to 51. So we'll pull this up and let's see how good charm goes. Doesn't look like I'm very good with charm, but we'll give it a shot. Yeah, that didn't work. So I'm going to another little trick in Roll20. If I double click the header, it becomes transparent and minimizes, so I can see through it and grab other things. So I failed my charm roll. 51. As the hour wears on, you are amused to hear May transform into a sort of tired tourist guide. Of course, the views from here are spectacular on a good day. A clear view all the way around. If you're a painter, you'll be right at home. If your tastes run more to the artisan, there are workshops on Silbury Street. Just at the end here and turn right. They're not set up for visitors, you understand. But you'll see the real craftsmen at work. The genuine article. Now, if you're looking for freshly baked bread. It seems a shame to point out that you intend to be on the road again shortly. You let May continue until she begins to yawn. Would you listen to me yapping? Time to turn in. When would you like your breakfast? Go to page 63. As May stands, you hear a clunk behind you. You look over your shoulder, but all you can see is a wooden door, securely closed. May Tutts, the young lady of the house. She'll have been listening to us. Ruth! Come and greet our guest. There's a short pause when then the door creaks open. Two wide eyes peer at you from the gap, between tousled hair and a rough nightgown. What do you say? The eyes blink. Pleased to meet you. Now get back to bed. The door closes again. My daughter Ruth. 10 years this summer. She's a delight and a torment all in one. Don't worry, she sleeps in with me. She'll not disturb you. Good night now. You retire to your room. It's a little chilly, but you're too tired to worry about lighting the fire. The sheets are clean, and the bed soon warms up. The silence outside is strange after living in a town for so long, but you soon drop off. You dream of fire in the grate. Coruscating colors shimmering through the dancing tongues of flame. At first they are tiny, almost microscopic. But they grow and grow until a kaleidoscopic inferno spills from the fireplace, spreading across the floor, up the sheets. You wake with a start. Daylight glints through the curtains. You get up and examine the grate, blinking the sleep from your eyes. It is quite cold. If you have taken any damage, You may heal 1 hit point back for your night's sleep. Now, I'm not sure what happens with our other choices that we end up taking damage, but I'm rather glad of the choices we've taken so far. Let's go to 166. May seems to have no running water, but has supplied some in a ceramic jug. You freshen up at the washstand and go in. She cooks a hearty breakfast and leaves you in peace to eat. At about 7:30, you are paid up, packed, and ready to go. You bid May goodbye, and she wishes you the best for your new career in Arkham. If you succeeded at a skill roll last night and wish to investigate the results further, go to 178. Otherwise, go to 192. Well, we failed the charm. And we failed the drive auto. So I guess that means 192 it is. You're already tired of your heavy bags. Hopefully Silas has repaired the motor coach and you can resume your long journey. A sourpuss he might be, but the old driver seemed to understand his vehicle well enough. You pause to check your watch. Still 20 minutes early. And round the final corner. The motor coach is gone. You put your bags down and search the area, trekking up and down slopes and around corners. At the edge of the village, you trace the long road back as it winds across the hills. 8 o'clock comes and goes. There is no coach to be seen. A passing villager notices your bags. Looking for the bus? I heard him take off at first light. He's due back in 3 or 4 days. If you need a place to stay, May Ledbetter rents a room. The man raises his hat to you and strolls on into the village. You curse Silas under your breath. Perhaps he went for parts. But you wonder if the old goat has stranded you here on purpose. It'd be kind of odd for a bus driver to just drop you off and leave you. Oh my, who's this? Is that May? Could be May. We'll see. May is doing laundry and looks surprised to see you again. Forgot something. When you explain the situation, she offers to store your bags while you try to arrange alternate transport. You are grateful to relinquish the load. Nobody here has anything like a car. She strokes her chin and narrows her eyes. Maybe you could find somebody with a horse and a cart for your bags. I could ask around later. Try Mr. Winters at the village hall. He'll know if anyone will. Or ask among the artisans. Their workshops are first left on Silbury Street. She reaches over and squeezes your wrist. Don't worry. I won't see you sleeping in the street, money or no money. You thank May and turn to face the village. Go to number 6. Aw, what a cute little village. Just the kind of place I'd love to get stranded in. You wander the streets of Emberhead without any particular destination in mind. The village is built on a relatively flat upland with splendid views. To the north, the hazy tips of the White Mountains reach for the heavens. To the south, the sparkling waters of Lake Winnipesaukee touch the horizon. The village itself takes less than 5 minutes to cross from edge to edge. You arrived on the winding road to the west. The only other road leads to the south, following a lower ridge of land as it turns east. In the southwest of the village, an open grassy space borders a ruined church, its graveyard cresting the cliffs. To the northeast, the 3 main thoroughfares meet at a raised black metal structure. It looms stark against the blue sky. Reading is dry work. We may now ask about the transport at the local general store, seek out the village hall, walk down to the lower level and check out the eastern road, examine the large metal structure, explore the church, look for people with their own transport needs. I'm thinking I'm going looking for people. I need a way out of this town. That is my first and foremost. I'm really not in the mood to talk to politicians. Not far from the Ledbetter House, on the north side of Silbury Street, there is an open courtyard. The rhythmic tattoo of a hammer seems to announce your approach. The courtyard is the busiest location you have yet seen in Emberhead. It is bordered by a ring of workshops. Some are brick buildings, some only rough huts. A blacksmith ceases to hammer, thrusting something red and glowing into a bucket of cold water. A weaver looks up from his loom, blinking at you for a moment before returning to his shuttle. A potter, engraver, and carpenter each work in their own space, exchanging friendly banter. You move among the artisans, chatting about their work. Eventually, you bring up the question of export. Some of them send occasional packages with Silas. Some restrict their custom entirely to villagers. You receive no suggestions about alternative transport. Make a psychology roll. So we'll double click on the translucent button to reopen the sheet and make a psychology roll. Another failure. I'm not doing too good tonight. You're beginning to get your bearings in Emberhead. Would you like to explore some more? You may choose another number from those below. Do not repeat a previous choice. Once you have tried 4 options, or before that, if you're ready to move on, go to 3. Well, we tried checking with local people. Let's try the general store. The general store is on a corner beside the main road. Just before it plunges to the south. The shopkeeper is a brisk, immense lady with a starched apron and strong shoulders. She looks hard at your unfamiliar face. Transport? There's a motor coach comes through twice a week. Missed it? Truck brings in my supplies every second Tuesday, but he's not due until next week. She shrugs. Seems Emberhead is content to keep its distance from the outside world. You have enough money to buy 1 or 2 inexpensive everyday items here. Note them down on your investigator sheet. Remember, the year is 1927. The shop stocks no weapons except a dusty hunting knife, which you may purchase if you want. Well, let's see. 1927, 2 inexpensive everyday items. You know, I think I might just buy that knife. So we'll switch to edit mode. Click the plus. And we have a hunting knife. Mark down weapon. And another everyday item that I might need. Why not? A pack of chewing gum. Gotta have something to keep the jaw busy. So now we will return 25. So we can close this one. So that's 2. Now, whether I want to talk to the politician or not, I might have to go to Village Hall. Although, I could walk down to the lower level and check out the Eastern Road. Maybe there's someone down there. Yeah, why not? I'll put off talking to the politician. The air is fresh, and the walk down to the lower ridge invigorating. You notice cultivated fields stretching through the lowlands around Emberhead, and among the crops some livestock, but no horses. Are you going to have to make your onward journey on foot? Further down, the road skirts the edge of the ridge and descends. There are a few scattered hovels here, with signs of habitation. They are set a substantial distance apart. As you examine them, a door opens, and an older man steps out. He wears a bedraggled suit, but carries a piece of cloth which he tosses over his head like a hood. As he does this, he sees you and freezes. Make a luck roll. Well, here's my luck. Luck's only a 10. Yeah, that didn't work out. So I did not succeed. On to 135. The strange man breaks into a run, fleeing from you along the ridge. His gait is lopsided and his movements have a maniacal intensity. If you give chase, turn to 150. If you have better things to do, turn to 160. Well, it's not looking like I'm going to find any transportation in here. So, why not find out why this guy is spooked and running? You break from the road and pursue the man. Feeling wild grass snatch at your feet, he sprints around the ridge, attempting to elude you behind the very rocks that support the metal structure, high above. To catch the man, you must make an opposed roll with your dex versus his. The man has a dex of 38. He scores a hard success on a roll of 19 and under, and an extreme success on a roll of 7 and under. Make the man's dex roll, then make your dex roll. Well, given that I don't have an entry for the man, I'm just going to hit my dex. You get a 73. And which means he did not make his dex. Now my dex roll. I made this. I knew it was a good thing to take a high dex. So I won the compare your levels of success. An extreme success beats a hard success, which beats a regular success, which beats a failure. If there's a draw, the higher skill value wins. Well, since he failed and I succeeded, I win. You go to 172. You draw close to the man. He glares over his shoulder and sees you. Damn you, he spits and slows down. Can't you leave a fellow be? You assure him you mean him no harm. We can't talk here, he says. Follow me. That must be the cliff. You follow a man around the outcrop. He glances up, then steps between two rocks and vanishes. Closer inspection reveals a narrow channel leading into the cliff. There is just enough light to see a small, natural chamber within. You will be uncomfortably close to this man if you go inside. Well, if we want to know what's going on, we gotta follow him. With wary steps, you squeeze between rocky outcrops and enter the concealed chamber, almost banging your head on the low ceiling. The man settles back against the wall and watches until you draw close. Then he slides back his hood. Make a sanity roll. If you fail, lose 1 sanity. That's never a good sign. I failed. Which means Ooh. I can see why he was wearing a hood. Some of the man's face remains. A strip from the side of his jaw to his right eye socket is healthy and pale, if aged. But the left side is consumed by angry scar tissue. One eye droops, hooded by melted flesh, and the nostril on that side is pulled open to leave a gaping hole. The disfigured man studies your reaction with his one good eye. Name's Arbogast. Willard Arbogast. Guess I don't need to ask what brings you to Emberhead. If you claim to have come for the festival, go to 206. If you admit that Silas stranded you here, go to 214. I don't know who this guy is, but I don't see a reason to lie to him. That swollen mouth gives a little twist downwards. Son of a devil has rat's blood. His fingers tighten into a fist. Arbogast fixes you with a lopsided yet intense stare. You seek me out, eh? He looks up at the cave ceiling. Which one of them told you about me? Never mind, it don't matter. Truth is, they fear what I know. They'd never come at me direct. Don't want to end up like old Arbogast, he giggles. The high-pitched sound is all the more grotesque coming from those bloated lips. Then abruptly his gaze turns to iron. Emberhead died 40 years ago, shattered by flame, consumed by the stars themselves. The ancient hill was cleansed by inferno, and from the blackened ground came new life, as is the way of all things. The Abenaki knew. Arbogast wipes his nose on his sleeve, except none of that happened. The flames were turned away, the necessary death postponed a year, and a year again. And now those up there, he stabs a scrawny finger at the ceiling, think themselves saviors of the village. Think they can defy the great old ones. Ya, Katuga! He shakes his head. With strange aeons, their lives matter less than the blink of an eye. A fierce intelligence burns in his gaze, but you suspect Arbogast may be quite insane. Should his mood change, it would not be difficult for him to seize one of the loose rocks and crack your skull with it. Do we ask Arbogast about the Abenaki? Do we ask him about the great old ones? Do we ask him about the villagers? Well, if the Abenaki knew about this flame, let's try them. The Abenaki? He frowns. They knew this land and cherished it. They lived here in harmony for their allotted time. Air and earth, water and fire. They accepted every daybreak as a gift, and they trod lightly on the land. Yet we came, and we ended them. Their time is past. Now ours, too, must end. Arbogast runs a hand through his hair. A wide strip is missing on the left side, displaced by scar tissue. He climbs to his feet. Arbogast pauses in the shadows. There's something about you. Something the previous ones never had. Perhaps you can make it through. If you want to hear more, meet me again after dark. 9 o'clock. The graveyard on the other side. He lifts a gnarled finger. Don't be followed, else I won't be there. This ain't the time of year for a showdown. Arbogast wipes his nose on his sleeve again. Go now. Their eyes are on me. And stranger, don't try to run. You'll never make it. You emerge into the sunlight, blinking and more than a little shaken. You have discovered a secret. Later tonight, the text will offer you a chance to follow up on a previous appointment. At that point, if you want to meet with Arbogast again, add 20 to your current entry number and go to that new entry. Aha. Make a note of that. I'll mark down, add 20 to entry to meet Arbogast. And now to 160. You turn back to the road and your core business, getting out of Emberhead and onward to Ossipee. The ridge gives you a good viewpoint from which you can see the course of the road. It winds with the hills, disappearing into woodland for a while before emerging further on. You lose sight of it somewhere towards a second patch of woodland, but your best estimation, that is at least 6-7 miles distant. You see no other settlements or traffic. It may be worth taking a chance and walking. The weather is still mild, but you'll need supplies before you attempt it. Now we return to 25. So I'm going to clear out all of these that I've opened since then. We can go to the church. We can check out the metal structure. Or we can seek out the village hall. I think it's time to go see the mayor or whatever he's called here. The village hall backs against a cliff at the east end of Silbury Street. It's the largest building you've seen so far in Emberhead. It is, however, locked and shuttered. You walk around it, peering through gaps in the shutters. There seems to be one large room, presumably for community meetings, and a smaller annex that serves as an office and archive. One of the windows is bricked up. Back at the main door, you can see no posted opening hours. "Mr. Winters doesn't open up mornings this time of year," says a gray-garbed woman passing by. "Best come back this afternoon." You ask whether the office has a telegraph. "Don't know," she shrugs. "Who would we call?" "You will have to try again later." Back to 25. Well, we went to the general store, the lower level, transport, and went to see the artisans and the village hall. Time to go to page 3. Your morning exertions have left you hungry. You roam the streets of Emberhead looking for sustenance. There is nothing resembling the busy cafes of your hometown, or anything that might be called a restaurant. It is beginning to look like you will have to get supplies from the general store when May Ledbetter comes down the street with a girl trailing in her wake. This must be Ruth. As she notices you, she races past her mother and approaches you with a smile. This is a different Ruth from the shy creature of last night. As she reaches you, she stops and stretches her arms up in celebration. She looks up into your eyes. Abruptly, the smile drops from her face, and she looks several years older. "Get out before the festival," she hisses. "Get out!" She blinks hard, then scuttles back towards her mother. May approaches, wrapping an arm around her daughter's shoulders. She smiles. "How are you getting on? Have you found transport?" Startled, you explain the frustrations of the situation. "I'd try Mr. Winters in the village hall. He's always in of an afternoon. You'll be hungry by now. Help yourself to any food in the house. The door's not locked." You glance at Ruth, where she has squirreled herself behind her mother's leg. Her eyes implore you to silence. We can ask Ruth about what she said. We can ask May about what Ruth said. Or we can say nothing. Given that Ruth really looks like she doesn't want me to say anything, and Arbogast being a bit odd, I'm going to keep my mouth closed for now. You take your leave of the Ledbetters and head towards their house. The door opens easily, and in the low kitchen you make a meal from stodgy bread and leftover stew. A little window offers a view to the mountains. If you learned one thing this morning, it was that Emberhead's streets hold little to occupy the visitor from out of town. But there are still about 5 hours of daylight remaining. You could take some provisions and the bare essentials from your luggage, and set out in the hope of reaching another settlement before dark. Or you could ask advice from Mr. Winters. Well, I'm not looking forward to having a long walk, especially considering that in following the road as far as we could with our eyes, there was no settlements in sight. Let's go see Mr. Winters. The village hall overlooks the lower north ridge of the village. You walk into Silbury Street to find it, conscious of the oppressive black metal structure framed at the end of the road. The shutters of the hall are open and some windows left ajar. There is no knocker, but a little bell over the entrance tinkles as you push the front door. Inside, a sturdy door to your right is marked private. To your left, an opening leads through to a bright room. You take a few steps inside. Benches line the walls, and there are 2 notice boards mounted between the windows. Well, let's see what's on the notice boards. I admit, it's a D&D habit. You see a notice board, you gotta see what the jobs are. The floorboards creak beneath you as you cross the room. You feel a slight spring in your step. Perhaps this room is used as a gymnasium for the village children. One notice board appears to be for the adults of the community, and one for the children. The former looks neglected, featuring handwritten advertisements for household items and a yellowed note about telegraph pricing. There is nothing about the festival. The children's notice board has a schedule for weekly creche services, and a number of paintings obviously done by the children themselves. Most are incoherent, though colorful. As best you can tell, they depict fireworks, or perhaps the tale of Joseph from the book of Genesis. One has lost the pin and hangs upside down. It shows a giant bird attacking Emberhead. Or it might simply be that the artist has not yet mastered the subtleties of scale. Make a spot hidden roll. Aha! I took this one as one of my better skills. So, we're going to come back here. Maybe I'll finally succeed. I did! So if we succeed, go to 30. As the afternoon sun hits the floor, you notice something curious. The boards under the windows are newer than the boards in the center of the floor. The frames also show signs of having been replaced in the recent past. Perhaps rain leaked in and rotted the wood. You may checkmark the small box beside the spot hidden skill. The door scrapes behind you. A middle-aged, bespectacled gentleman appears in the doorway. May I help you? You explain you are visiting on May Ledbetter's recommendation. Ah, well, I'm Clyde Winters. I'm not sure I can help you, but would you care for some coffee? I'm partial to a cup in the afternoon. He gestures to the open door behind him. This seems like a worthwhile opportunity, and you are a little thirsty. You step through the door marked private. The other side of the village hall is in marked contrast to the public space. The room is compact, lined with shelves of books and file alcoves. One corner is reserved for a tiny pantry and what is presumably a water closet. You study Mr. Winters as he fills the percolator. Although thin on top, his hair is oiled and neatly swept back. His suit is a sober affair, and well-tailored, even if the cut is a little old-fashioned. A lesser man working alone might have loosened his bow tie for comfort. On the desk against the opposite wall, You notice what looks like a telegraph set. Well, we can be polite and make small talk, or go straight to the telegraph. I might be rough around the edges, but I am polite enough to make a little small talk before getting to the meat of the issue and why I came. The pot begins to gurgle as you exchange pleasantries with Winters. Living here? It's a trade-off, like so much in life. He looks past you at a high shelf. I could wish for access to a proper library, of course, but I know myself well enough. I'm strictly a dabbler. And the cities? His face wrinkles in distaste. Too many people. Everybody rushing and shouting. We have a special place here in Emberhead, and someone must accept responsibility for keeping it so. That was my father before me, and now the duty falls to me. He lifts his chin and straightens up. This evening, as the sun sets, look out at the landscape around the village. We have peace up here. Halfway to the stars. Are we not privileged? Is this not worth the hardships we must accept? He looks at you speculatively. This seems a good time to ask about the telegraph. The telegraph? Much as we value our isolation, we do need the link sometimes. You were hoping to send a message? I must apologize. The line has been down for 2 weeks. I reported the fault, but of course they're not so speedy when the problem lies in a rural area. I'm expecting a repair the day after next. I do appreciate how frustrating this must be. The coach is due in 3 days? But I think he's going west. Perhaps you might engage a wagon. One of the farmers might. You explain that you have asked a few of the residents already, but to no avail. I tell you what. Winter pours you a steaming cup of coffee. The dark liquid smells rich and strong. When the repair crew arrive, I'll ask them to take you back with them. How about that? We might want $1 or $2 to grease the wheels. The day after tomorrow, it's less than ideal, but it's the first real opportunity you've had. Thank Winters and leave? Or ask about his library? Well, I'm kind of interested. We haven't seen a lot of books in the area. Seems like he's got quite a few. And that comment of being a dabbler. Dabbler in what? You make a small but flattering remark about a couple of the volumes on his shelves. Winters blushes with pleasure. Well, of course they're not my personal collection. They belong to the village, he says. But I did select most of the recent items. This is the community's library. You see, I put up the private sign to stop people just wandering in from meetings in the other room, but this is really a public space. You scan the shelves. There's a sparse but respectable collection on mathematics and the sciences, passable sections on history and arts, and a shelf of literature. He has a few lowbrow novels tucked away in a corner, and tatty copies of Bizarre Tales magazine. Quality does not always equate to popularity, I'm afraid. Winters gives you an apologetic smile. To take the time for some research in the library, go to 68. To leave while it's still light outside, go to 180. Well, I don't know what I'd necessarily be researching here. Unless, because we've got, it's mostly mathematics, sciences. Wasn't hearing much about village records, and those would be of interest. So, I think we'll head back to Ledbetter's, and while we still have some light to see by. As the light fades, you return to the Ledbetter house and eat a light supper. May is unusually taciturn. Ruth's eyes flick to yours several times during the meal. There is an urgency there you cannot quite interpret. Afterwards, May ushers the girl into their room. You have been in Emberhead for barely one whole day, and you already feel confined by it, both geographically and socially. The evening seems to offer little. We can do some stargazing. Attempt to speak to Ruth. If you have a previous appointment, this is the time to follow up. Aha! This is where we get to go see Arbogast. Let's go find out what he knows. So that means we need to go to 200. Arbogast is not at the appointed meeting place. You give him 10 minutes, but he doesn't show. You curse the old crank and head back towards May's house. Psst! A hand snakes from a doorway and grabs your arm. You jump at the sight of that half-face glimpsed in starlight. One of them's near, he whispers. Watching. Come with me. Arbogast leads you across the thoroughfares, slipping between houses. The metal structure looms at the end of the street. Silent now, he says. But the beacon will come alive tomorrow night. He ushers you into a little alcove behind the village school. Arbogast glances behind you, then sits down. Again you feel uncomfortable in proximity to that scarred visage. One melted eyelid lifts. You don't have long. Understand this. I was the conduit, the interpreter. Before that fool Winters and his fancy words. The things which come to Emberhead care not for words. Those idiots think this is a ritual of sacrifice. He spits on the grass. It is a ritual of control. They know the words, but they do not comprehend the forces they call. He sniffs and sits back. No. You have no time for more questions. I will teach you how to end it, in the moment when all is lost. You can return this hill to the earth, to the death that came 40 years ago. I've tried it myself, but, his head sags, I no longer have the concentration. The chant is simple. It I can teach you, but you must perform it with a clarity of mind that I have lacked for years. Have we had enough of Arbogast, or do we want to learn his strange chant? Well, might make for an interesting part of the story to discuss this strange little village up in the mountains and some kind of magic or voodoo or something that they're practicing. You feel very dislocated from reality as you sit on a cliff top behind a school at night, learning a chant by rote from a madman. Arbogast is careful to teach you it in sections. He glances into the sky. Won't work right now. Cloud cover in the star. But he still takes care not to pronounce the whole thing at once. It has a rhythmic beginning and various elaborations. But the core passage is repeated 3 times. Fingui Mogulafa Cthulhu Fommelhat Nga Ga Nafeltagen Ya Cthulhu. In time, Arbogast listens to your recital and nods. Remember every sound, but never speak it if you have plans left on this earth. You have discovered a secret. If your situation ever becomes desperate enough to try Arbogast's ritual, the text will offer you the option to chant. At that point, you want to try it. If you want to try it, add 10 to your current entry number and go to that new entry. So I'll mark down plus 10 to chant. This is getting more than a little strange here. Arbogast leans back. It will make you one with the living. A black shape lunges from the dark. It wraps an arm around Arbogast's throat and drags him backwards, out of the alcove. He grabs at the arm, kicking empty air. You see the gleam of a long blade in the moonlight. Dodge roll. Do we really want to look? I guess we have to. Yes, actually, no, that's a spot hidden. That's more what I expected. It's a failure. I failed. Go to 203. Something smashes you on the temple. You reel back. You hear Arbogast yell and see the knife flash 1, 2, 3 times, its shiny surface darkening with blood. Something strikes you again, and as you sink, flames leap from the ground, painting the night with infernal color. They pick out 3 dark figures. Take 1d6 damage. So that's 2 more damage. Oh, I lost sanity before. So I switch to edit mode. Drop my hit points down to 10. And we'll put it back for rolls. Onward to 45. You awake with a jolt, wrestling the blankets, ready for attack. The Ledbetter guest room is quiet, painted with morning light. There's nobody here but you. You release the blankets and wait for your heart to stop hammering. Was it all just a dream? The Ledbetter kitchen is empty, although bread and eggs have been laid out for your breakfast. There is a note from May explaining that she has taken Ruth out for a few hours. If you were involved in a fight in the village last night and want to investigate the aftermath, what did Winters put in my coffee? You feel skittish as you approach the spot where you and Arbogast were attacked. Your memory of the encounter is shaky, but you remember 1 or 2 vivid images. At first you think there is nothing to see, no discarded weapons or figures lying unconscious. But upon closer examination, you find sticky, congealed patches and blackened lines in the grass. If the village had a police station, you could go there, but something tells you events have gone beyond that. So it wasn't a dream, and apparently Arbogast has been killed. You make a quiet circuit of the village, pausing in unobtrusive places to watch the villagers. It is rather busy for this time in the morning. Yawning locals stream back and forward along the roads, carrying bundles of split logs to the site of what you've heard referred to as the beacon. You see 2 figures already up in its superstructure, arranging the wood. The festival bonfire will be most impressive. But do you intend to stay to see it? You suspect by now that something is amiss here. While the villagers are distracted, you may do some illicit investigation, or you may simply leave town without looking back. You may now search May Ledbetter's bedroom, go alone to the village hall, take a closer look at the artisan's courtyard, spy on the activity at the beacon, slip down to the east road and flee for good. Well, I don't know who attacked me last night and killed Arbogast. And getting caught out in the woods, probably not the best idea to be alone on the road. May was acting a bit strange. But she's also nice. Let's take a closer look at the courtyard. You approach around the back of the buildings in Emberhead's northwestern corner. By this time in the morning, you would expect activity in the artisan's courtyard, but the benches and anvils sit deserted. Your footsteps echo off the surrounding walls. One of the workshops is shut and padlocked. You peek through the joints, but you can see nothing inside. You can try to crack the padlock, physically break into the locked workshop, or move on. Didn't I take lockpicking? Yes, I did. Let's try to crack that lock. You examine the padlock. It is old and not particularly secure. There are plenty of metal shavings around that could work as improvised picks. But can you really pick a lock? Make a locksmith roll. You may double your skill for this roll only. Ooh. So that means I have to roll under a 42. 92 is not under a 42. So much for that. I failed. You step back from the door and regard it in frustration. A crunching noise distracts you and a human shadow falls on a nearby wall. Someone is approaching. You melt away in the other direction. Excuse me. You feel a deepening unease about Emberhead, and this day in particular. Once we have attempted 3 of the options below, we go to 98. Well, there's just stacking wood at the beacon. We already know that. We can try it. Going down the road. I'm thinking we're going to go to the village hall. Maybe Winters can give us an idea of what may have happened to Arbogast. Keeping away from the streets, you skirt the northern cliffs and approach the village hall from the rear. It is close to the beacon, and you will not be able to use the door unobserved. You check the windows. The one on the east side facing the beacon is bricked up. A shutter is loose on the westernmost window, and you are able to ease it open and slide inside, closing the shutter behind you. You drop into the village meeting room and pad through, passing through dim shafts of light and listening to the excited chatter of locals from outside. The door opposite reads private. Hearing nothing from the other side, you turn the handle. The room is lined with books. In the corner is a small water closet and pantry. A quick survey of the rest of the room reveals little, so you turn to the bookcase. The dim light makes it difficult to read the spines. Is there anything useful here? Make a spot hidden roll. If you have examined this bookshelf before, you may have a bonus die. Ooh. So I will have to go look that up if I need it. I might just need it. So let's see. Rules. Bonus dice. And very useful right here in the compendium. Don't actually have to go grab any books or flip through anything. Sometimes the prevailing conditions, environment, and available time can hinder or benefit a skill or characteristic roll. Certain conditions mean that the keeper may grant a bonus die or a penalty die. Bonus dice and penalty dice are not trifling small additions or subtractions of a few percentage points, and so should not be used without good cause. If a factor is so small that it would only modify a roll by a few percentage points, then don't bother with it. Driving in a light rain should not inflict a penalty die, but racing against another driver in heavy torrential rain, opposed drive roll, now there's your penalty. In most cases, the keeper would boost or penalize a roll with a single bonus die or penalty die. But where conditions are highly advantageous or dire, a second bonus die could be applied. Well, we already know I've got one. One bonus die, one penalty die, cancel each other out. For each bonus die, roll an additional 10's percentage die alongside the usual pair of percentage dice. When making a skill roll, you are now rolling 3 separate dice, 1 unit's die and 2 10's. If you have a bonus die, you should use the 10's die that yields the better lower result. Okay. So, if I come back here, 71. So I can do this as a D10. Four. Now I've got a 41. And a 41 is a success. Ha! Good thing we looked at that bookcase earlier. You're looking along the spines when you notice how close the bookcase is to the window on the north wall. From outside, there is a solid 3 or 4 feet behind the edge of the window and the wall, and the bookcase covers the wall with the bricked-up window. Further examination reveals an ingenious arrangement of slip cases physically attached to the shelves. When you pull to the left, an entire section of the bookcase swings out. The clatter of activity around the beacon seems to be building, and you flinch at every conversation that gets too close to the building's door. To investigate behind the bookcase, go to 153. To close it and make your escape, go to 120. Oh, I'm not getting out of here yet. I want to know what's behind this bookcase. You squint into the darkness behind the bookcase. It is a small alcove big enough for one person and has a hidden shelf on either side. You cannot make out any titles in this light. To risk opening one of the cliffside windows a little, go to 165. To grab a few books and leave, 159. Well, opening the windows, very likely to be seen. So, I'm just going to grab some books and leave. You slip from the building, clutching some of the more portable volumes. In the shadows behind the artisan's courtyard, you examine them. To your disappointment, 2 or 3 are in a script unknown to you. Another appears to be in Egyptian symbols. There is a spidery, handwritten copy of something named the Emerald Tablet. But perhaps most intriguing is a small book of strange poetry bound in black, published in Boston in 1919. The cover reads, Azathoth and Others, by Edward Derby. You'll have to hide the larger volumes, but you can pocket the Derby book. The Derby volume will require about a week of study to fully comprehend, if you survive this adventure. You may read 171 for more information about it. Well, that sounds ominous, but we'll see if we get to find out more about this book. Now we can close these down. And we've gone to the artisans. We've gone to the village hall. I guess we'll go back to Ledbetter's and search around, see if she's hiding anything. Despite her hospitality, you do not trust May Ledbetter. You return to her house quite openly. Where else would you go? Inside, the dwelling is still empty. You rap on the bedroom door and wait. Silence. You ease it open. The Ledbetter bedroom is in marked contrast to your own neat space. Dirty clothes are piled on about the floor. On a rough quilt lie school books and cheap novels. You notice a raggedy old doll discarded down the side of the bed. Make a spot hidden. An extreme success. Woohoo! You notice scrapes on the floorboards corresponding to the legs of the bed. With effort, you slide the bed away. There is a rug spread beneath it, and beneath the rug a trap door. You ease it open. The dark space beneath is some kind of cellar. Another hidden space? I wonder what she's hiding down there. The daylight barely offers enough illumination to see, but a hot lantern during daytime would be very suspicious. You squeeze beneath the floor and glance around. Your first impression is that May keeps her junk here, for there are many boxes of different sizes piled in untidy heaps. It takes a few seconds before you realize they're all traveling trunks or suitcases. There are about 20 of them. The implication hits you hard, yet you maintain enough control to check the luggage tags. You count 8 or 9 different names before you stop. Scrambling back up to the bedroom, you close the trapdoor with trembling fingers, returning the bed to its place. Oh no. This is where people come to disappear. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. No. 1, we went. That was 3. So, now we go to 98. You are contemplating your next move when you see one villager, a bald man with a damaged ear, watching you intently. Some instinct makes you walk in the other direction. Then you see the others, ahead and to your sides, a wary teenager, an evil-eyed matron, and a man hefting a club. They are not staring as obviously as the first, but they keep you under watch, and they are closing in. You cannot hope to overcome 4 of them at once. You can try to lose them among the buildings, or just run for it. This is their town. Losing them among the buildings, pretty slim. I'm just going to make a run for it. These people know their village better than you. Dang it. You pick the biggest gap between them and sprint into it. They give chase. You find yourself heading for the southern road. As you approach, you see 4 villagers stationed in the middle of the road, clearly guards. You veer off towards the half-ruined church, already breathing hard. You slip inside the building through a broken window and duck under the elderly boards that slash the interior, making for the door on the other side. The door is quite intact, moldy, and locked. 2 of the pursuers climb into the church, going through the window. The other 2 enter the main door. Give it up. One thumps his club into his palm. It'll go better for you if you don't resist. They close in. You're getting low on options. Give yourself up, or try to collapse a section of the roof on them. I'm going to try to collapse a section of the roof. I'm not giving in to these guys. That we already saw them kill somebody. Even as you spin around and look for a weak point, you know this plan is deranged. Less than 2 days ago, you were taking a coach ride to a new job, and now you're trying to demolish a church while still inside it. Under one section of partially collapsed roof, you see a wooden pillar that is already bowed. You snatch up a piece of broken ironwork. Ooh, we gotta make a hard strength roll. Maybe I shouldn't have taken an average strength. It's a success, but it's not a hard success, which means it's a failure. You beat the pillar with all your strength. The villagers draw back in alarm, then relax as they see you are having no effect whatsoever. They back you against the church wall. You swing your club for a few desperate seconds, but they overpower you and tear it from your fingers. The fading light from a narrow window tells you afternoon is giving way to evening. Your hands are shackled behind your back, so you cannot even lie down on the rough bed. A woman you have not seen before comes in. Her face is wrinkled and her eyes dull. They did not meet yours, but she puts a cup to your lips. Do we accept the drink or reject it? I don't know what this woman is trying to give me, so I'm rejecting it. You turn your face away, and when she tries again, you dash the cup from her hands, using the side of your head. The clear liquid spills across the floor. The woman gives a half shrug and turns to leave the room. You shout after her, but she gives no reaction. You soon become thirsty. Ooh, maybe it was just water. As the light fades outside, your little prison becomes dark. You can hear much activity around the building. Occasionally an orange glow passes the window. The only comfortable position in the shackles seems to be to sit against the end of the bed with your arms hanging behind you. You need to concentrate and come up with a plan. There is clearly no escape from your bonds. You do not know exactly what your captors want from you, but you cannot ignore the fact that they have spent the entire day constructing a massive bonfire. This doesn't sound good. Alone against the flames. I've been dreaming about fire. They're building a big old fire. And they like to kill people. I think I see where this is going. The door scrapes, wrenching you back into the moment. Orange light spills into the house from blazing torches held at the threshold. 2 large villagers step in and grab you. At least you assume they are villagers. They wear heavy black cloaks, and their faces and hands are painted entirely black, save for only a red triangle centered on their left eye. You try to drag your legs, but they reach under your arms and lift you bodily from the bed. Outside, it seems that the whole village has congregated to see you. Every single one has a blackened face with the red triangle motif. Torches sputter and spill fire. You struggle, but you can see physical resistance is hopeless. You are marched to the central street and turn to face the beacon. The procession down the approach is slow and formal, save when you sense weakness and yank at your captors. A chill touches you when you see 3 human shapes carried ahead of you, draped in red cloth. The beacon looms larger and larger, its dreadful silhouette a black triangle pointing to the stars. A low drone begins among the cloaked figures, unbidden. The word mourners comes to mind. Smoke from their torches makes you cough. You feel heat on your face. As you reach the cleared area around the beacon, 3 dancers break from the pack. Young girls swinging balls of fire in spectacular arcs, drawing circles in the night air. One by one, they draw close to you and touch your forehead with sooty fingers. Each kisses you 3 times, on the left cheek, right cheek, then forehead. Then they whisper in your ear. The smell of kerosene fills your nostrils. Make an app roll. Oh. Yeah, my appearance isn't so good. Through your sacrifice, the village will be reborn, says the first dancer. You pass from earth to air for all our sakes, says the second. Through incandescence may you find rapture, says the third. Their dance weaves off and disappears behind the buildings. As you arrive beneath the beacon, 10 villagers close in on you. Working with surprising coordination, they immobilize you and lift you up the blackened iron stairs to the raised platform. You cannot help but shiver at the sight of the central framework, twisting from past blazes, and what you can now clearly see to be fastening points for a chain. None of the eyes meet yours as they lash you to the metal. The village sings now, something rhythmic and ancient, carved from odd syllables. A second group ascends to the beacon, carrying the 3 red-draped bodies. With reverence, they arrange their burdens in a triangle around your feet. Then they withdraw, leaving you alone with the dead, shin deep in a sea of kindling. Yep, this does not seem to be going well. It seems the entire village is gathered around the beacon to watch you burn. Behind the face paint, you recognize May Ledbetter, and yes, that is Silas, the coach driver standing at her side. The audacity and scale of the deception staggers you. A man steps up on a dais and raises his hands with quiet authority. The frame of his spectacles obscures the red triangle on his face. So we draw here together again on this night, as we do each year, and we give thanks to the one who will preserve the village against the fire of the void. You will be taken by the ones from above in our stead. Your death will bring life to our streets and bounty to our fields. It will safeguard our children and our elders alike for another year. We salute you. He bows his head. All around the beacon, bearers step forward and lift their torches to the edge of the raised platform. A ring of tiny flames flicker up around the perimeter, As they wink, the singing of the villagers drops into an unearthly rhythm. To throw all your remaining strength against the bonds, go to 44. To wait and see what happens, go to 40. Maybe we'll get lucky. I'm throwing my strength against the bonds. It's a hard strength roll. Nope. Failed horribly. You're tired and your flesh ought to be insufficient against the dark iron of the chains, yet you can feel them give a little. There's a weakness in one of the links. The flames snake across the kindling, catching and rising. Smoke rises and it becomes difficult to see the villagers. The three bodies surrounding you catch fire, blazing with sooty red flames. You begin to cough as the smoke enters your lungs and fight down the urge to panic. If you learned a strange chant and wish to try it, this is the moment. So instead of 40, we add 10. Oh, actually, do we go to 50 or do we go to 75? I think it's we go to 75. It'll be pretty obvious if I'm misremembering. Yep, I misremembered. So that means it's going to be 50. The flames draw closer as you bring Arbogast's chant to mind. It is hard to clear your head as the heat grows beneath your feet. You cough and splutter, but you sustain the words. Finally, you reach the key passage, and even as your clothes catch fire, you yell for the third time. Finglui, Muglnaf, Cthulhu, Fommelhot, Ngaga, Nafelhathagen, Ia, Cthulhu. The swirling tongues of fire around you stop in midair. The people around the beacon freeze, their black painted faces bleached and stripped. As a second sun opens in the air above Emberhead, in an instant the people, the village, the hill, all are consumed, incinerated by impossible proximity to sheer combustion, the essence of fire. Though your body is bound to the beacon, you are being freed. As a spark, you race into space, catapulted through the vastness of the void. The stars burn past you with incomprehensible velocity, and then you are home. Forever you will dwell here, at Fommelhot, where the flames ripple and flow through the immense spaces to the rhythms of the universe, where planets themselves move and tilt through unutterable wheels of fire, bound to the clockwork chaos of the living flame. And among the flames you will dance. You have single-handedly destroyed a section of New Hampshire about 16 miles in diameter. This also killed you. The end. Wow. That was certainly interesting. I rather like the style of the choose your own adventure way this works. The explanations on how to set up your sheet is also rather good. It gives you the base instruction you need to fill out a character sheet to play. This is a skinny down version of the rules that comes with the starter set. The full rules involve more rolling and some other things when you create a character, along with your choices, creating a backstory, purchasing things. But all in all, I found that to be quite enjoyable, and I hope you enjoyed it too. Have a good night. Although, before I go, I do want to take a moment to say that on Memorial Day, I'm going to be running a D&D 5e game called the Hoarfrost Journeys. It is, and we'll be playing the first 3 parts of a 4-part adventure by Dave Zajax. It is an all-dwarven adventure, and during this marathon, which we're expected to be playing at about 7 hours, starting at 10 a.m. on Monday the 25th, we're going to be taking donations to raise money for Extra Life. Extra Life is an organization that sponsors gaming events as fundraisers, and the proceeds go to the children's hospitals. Each member of my team have chosen a children's hospital to support. Usually their local one. Mine is the Wisconsin Children's Hospital. And those funds are then used to cover the treatment of a child that's currently in the hospital. I feel very strongly about this charity and what they do, because I've been a parent who had a child in the hospital, and also found myself wondering how we were going to pay for it. This charity makes it so that parents can focus on what's really important: their child's health. So I would ask, if you can, please consider donating. There is a link just below this feed on my Twitch page. Or if you'd like, come out and join us on Monday, when the whole group will be present, and see what kind of trouble you can wreak. Because not just taking regular donations, we're also providing little incentives for micro donations during the game, so that you can give players, or me as the DM, for the monsters, inspiration, which essentially will give whoever it's awarded to a free roll if they don't like the roll they got. And that could mix things up quite a bit. So please consider turning out. And thank you for tuning in. Have a good night.